Yardley Love grew up in Cockeysville and attended Notre Dame Prep. She was just 22 years old when she died, police say killed at the hands of her college boyfriend, 24-year-old George Hughley of Chevy Chase, Maryland. A crush of media now descending on the college town where his murder trial is about to get underway.
It's an attention to a trial that by the national media that we haven't seen here before.
The University of Virginia lacrosse players were having problems with the relationship just before Love's death. Questioned by police, Hughley admitted he kicked down the door to her off-campus apartment and shook her as her head repeatedly hit the wall. But his defense team says Hughley didn't intend to kill her.
George Hughley only learned that Yardley Love had died when he was told that by a detective.
The jury will hear that defense along with his lacrosse teammates describing him as very drunk the night Love died.
The prosecution's case looks very solid.
Legal expert Byron Warnken expects the defense will try to counter the medical examiner's findings that Love died from head trauma by suggesting she could have fallen or that the prescription drug Adderall found in her system actually killed her.
They're going to try to probably show that she was drinking too much that night or drinks too much generally. They're going to probably put her a little bit on trial by showing that her condition that she caused led to this as much or more than whatever he did.
The original criminal complaint has been thrown out and replaced with a new one that alleges conspiracy and sheds some more light on that shocking day in November.
Prince George's County Executive Jack Johnson and his wife Leslie, a newly elected county council member, have been named as key players in a pay-to-play scheme running rampant across Maryland. The FBI has released more details of the couple's phone conversations on the day of its raid in a new criminal complaint against Leslie Johnson. They discuss a $100,000 check made out to the county executive believed to be a bribe from a developer, as well as $80,000 in cash. Jack, there's a little box, and in the box there's a check. Just tear it up or chew it up or something, okay? Leslie, what do you want me to do with it? Jack, put it in your panties and walk out of the house. Yeah, stuff it in your panties. Yeah, tell him you were in the bathroom and then just open the door and sit down, okay? Jack Johnson is the only one who has spoken out.
I'm innocent of these charges.
Legal experts say this new complaint shines more light on the councilwoman.
And I think they're going to be trying to show at trial, if it gets that far, that, you know, she knew about all this. Maybe not since literally from day one, but pretty close to day one. I mean, she was in helping him cover it up.
Both the county councilwoman and her husband, the former county executive, are out of jail. They've surrendered their passports. There's no court hearing yet scheduled for Leslie Johnson. Kelly McPherson, WJZ Eyewitness News.
Marine Lance Corporal Matthew Snyder died while fighting in Iraq in 2006. Now, 5 years later, the Supreme Court rules the Westboro Baptist Church had the right to picket at his funeral, disturbing to Matthew's father, Al Snyder, who first filed the federal lawsuit in Maryland to stop the group from picketing other funerals.
Well, there's not much we can do about it anymore. When the government won't do anything about it and the courts give us no remedy, then people are going to start taking matters into their own hands. And believe me, someone's going to get hurt, and when the blood starts flowing, let it be on the Supreme Court justice's hands.
The issue has ignited a firestorm of comments on WJZ.com. Most people sickened by the Supreme Court's decision allowing the fundamentalist Kansas group to stage demeaning protests at military funerals because they believe God is punishing America for its tolerance of homosexuality. But some online comments say while they are disgusted by the Westboro group's beliefs, they agree the small church has the same right to freedom of speech. Without it, some argue the country would be opening the door to censorship. Many legal experts like Byron Warnken agree.
And it's the offensiveness of your words that almost adds to their First Amendment right, because it's only by allowing you to speak against everybody who is repulsed by what you say do we have a forum. And in theory, if we're all repulsed by what you say, maybe we'll all speak back and we'll all write editorials and do news shows and all this about how repulsive it is to offend the families of our fallen heroes.
Derek Valcourt, WJZ Eyewitness News.
Senator, are you feeling confident about this trial?
No comment.
Prince George's County Senator Ulysses Curry faces the possibility of jail time if a jury agrees with prosecutors that the former chair of the state's powerful Budget and Taxation Committee took nearly $250,000 in bribe money from grocery chain Shoppers Food from 2003 to 2008. It's been more than 3 years since the FBI, armed with warrants, swooped in on Curry's home and the offices of Shoppers Food, alleging Curry used his political power to benefit the grocery chain.
They went through the house, room by room, examined boxes.
Curry's lawyers argue he worked for Shoppers as a paid consultant and insist he did nothing illegal. Shirley Gravely Curry testified her husband's failure to disclose his paid relationship with Shoppers on state ethics forms as required was her fault, saying she does all of his paperwork because he's unorganized. Jurors also heard in person from some high-profile politicians, including former Governor Bob Ehrlich, Congressman Elisha Cummings, Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown, and House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, all calling Curry an honest man.
There's a fine line in our society between paid lobbying and bribery.
Legal expert and avid Ravens fan Byron Warnken says Curry may be convicted if prosecutors can convince the jury the 74-year-old knew what he was doing was wrong.
But they're going to have to persuade all 12 of them beyond a reasonable doubt that what he did was done with the intent for illegal gain.
Officer Jahaji Dushanbe already convicted on manslaughter for the 2010 killing of 24-year-old Tyrone Brown. Dushanbe was leaving a Mount Vernon nightclub with friends when he shot the unarmed Marine 12 times with his police-issued weapon in a dispute over a woman. While Dushanbe awaits sentencing, a lawsuit filed by the victim's family moves full speed ahead in a federal court. This ruling from a federal judge allows the police department, the police commissioner, even the mayor to be sued under a federal law for failing to stop an officer who the plaintiff's attorneys say had a history of misconduct.
There were several things that should have raised the red flag to the Baltimore City Police Department.
At issue, says attorney Dwight Pettit, a 1998 incident in which Dushanbe shot a man in the back who he believed had opened fire. Dushanbe's 2001 arrest of a woman who was later strip searched, all because she didn't sign a traffic ticket correctly. And then a 2005 incident in which Dushanbe was found to be intoxicated when he shot a man in the foot. Legal expert Byron Warnken tells WJZ federal court could allow for higher financial damages as the victim's family tries to prove the city is liable for Dushanbe's actions.
The reason our loved one is dead is in part the blame of police supervisors, the police commissioner, people up through and including the mayor, whose job it was to stay on the alert, to make sure that people like this aren't out there just one trigger pull away from you and me dying.
Six months ago, at the start of this trial, Exxon apologized for allowing 26,000 gallons of gas to leak from this station in 2006. The gas ruined drinking water wells and affected property values, so it's little surprise that a Baltimore County jury awarded nearly $500 million to the 150 homeowners who sued, an average of $2.5 to $3.5 million per family. So what's important here is that the jury found that Exxon committed fraud. They deliberately misled the public and the state about the extent of the problem and about the cleanup. And proving fraud in Maryland is very difficult.
The last article I read said that Maryland and Wisconsin were the two most difficult states of the 43 or whatever that permits punitive damage, so it's tough in Maryland.
The finding by the jury of fraud against Exxon, 5 counts, is very important because now the company can be punished in the form of money, possibly $1 billion, possibly the largest settlement of its kind in Maryland.
Punitive damages is basically giving you something you don't deserve, because we already covered you with compensatory, in order to punish those people so people like that know not to do this again.
In the finding against Exxon, the jury had to clear a high hurdle.
It's more than negligence, it's more than gross negligence. It's an intentional wrongdoing trying to harm people.
Good morning, everyone. In this ruling, the Court of Appeal says the judge who oversaw the trial withheld critical information that may have shaped the verdict, and that is why the two men could have a fresh trial. Adon Canela and Policarpio Espinoza Perez are serving life sentences for the vicious murders of 3 young relatives. In May 2004, 8-year-old Lucero Espinoza, her brother 9-year-old Ricardo Espinoza, and their 10-year-old cousin Alexis Quezada were found in their Park Heights apartment, severely beaten, their throats cut so deeply they were nearly decapitated. But in a stunning move, the state's highest court overturned the pair's convictions on Friday. Canela's attorney.
And when things are withheld, you're sort of fighting with one hand tied behind your back. And that's essentially what the court found here.
The trial was one of the longest in Baltimore history. Jurors had sent nearly 30 notes to the trial judge. The Court of Appeal says the judge did not disclose 6 others. 5 of them were questions about key evidence. The other had to do with juror misconduct. One legal expert calls the mistake
sloppy. In other words, there's really no excuse for it. When you get the tag team match of those two, error by the trial judge that was not harmless, the defendant gets a new trial.
Several people who still live here at the apartment complex say hearing about the ruling takes them right back to that chilling day 7 years ago when the children's bodies were discovered.
It's just bringing back memories, bringing everything back out.
I think it's sad. It's very sad that, the family has to, relive this moment.
If the state's attorney decides to retry the case, obstacles are evident. Many family members who testified were here illegally and have since been deported back to Mexico. A spokesman for the state's attorney's office says they are carefully reviewing the ruling before deciding whether to retry the case. In Baltimore, Weijia Jiang, WJZ Eyewitness News.